Welcome into Seahawks Today. I am Will Ortner, the host of this show, and we've got trade rumors swirling around the Seattle Seahawks as we get ever closer to that NFL trade deadline coming up on November 4th. Don't be shocked if you see some movement coming from not just the Seattle Seahawks, but from multiple teams around the NFL. Before we get into the latest trade rumors on today's episode, you need to go follow me over on X or on Instagram. I'm making Seahawks content every single day, and I share some extra content as well that you're not going to see here on the videos or on the shorts over on my Twitter and on my Instagram. I make it super easy for you to find me at Will Ortner on both of them, all lowercase. Easy to find, constantly tweeting about the Seahawks, constantly making videos about the Seahawks. You don't want to miss the latest breaking news because I'll drop it there first before I get it here on YouTube. So the latest trade rumors are swirling around Riq Woolen. Yes, I know that we've been beating this drum. It's at this point pretty much beating a dead horse that the Seahawks are trying to move on from Woolen, or at least are open to moving on from Riq Woolen, and teams that need a cornerback are continuing to call. The latest report comes from Bleacher Report, actually, and it is on the latest Riq Woolen trade rumors. They are actually predicting a trade by the deadline. They dive into some of Diana Rossini's latest reports and then break it down into their own way of where do they think Riq Woolen will land. And I have some counters, and I have some reasons why some of these trade partners would not work for your Seattle Seahawks. Now, the four potential trade partners that they have listed, you have the Los Angeles Rams, Detroit Lions, Indianapolis Colts, and the Baltimore Ravens. All four of these teams, it was reported by Diana Rossini of The Athletic, are calling for cornerbacks. The next logical spot, then, is to call the Seattle Seahawks because, of course, your Seattle Seahawks have a corner that they are trying to move on from and have been trying to move on from since basically the beginning of October, end of September. So I'm going to go through each one of these potential trade partners that Bleacher Report listed out, tell you why or why not a trade would make sense there. The Los Angeles Rams. No. That's pretty much all I have to say there. You're not going to make a trade with a team in your division that has a shot at making the playoffs. That is what, a half a game behind you right now? The only reason they're behind you is because of the divisional tiebreaker in the NFC West. They don't have a win in the division. You do have one. No shot. No shot the Seahawks trade Riq Woolen to LA. Next, the Baltimore Ravens. They are looking to make a trade at that cornerback spot, but it's not going to make sense in Baltimore to trade for Riq Woolen because, well, Baltimore runs the Walmart defense that you run in Seattle. So if head coach Mike Macdonald can't make Riq Woolen into more of a zone corner than a man corner, because man is the best type of cornerback play that Riq Woolen has, why do you think he'd work in Baltimore? When you have a worse coach running it, a worse position coach trying to teach it, I don't think a change of scenery would be just enough for Riq Woolen in Baltimore. It just doesn't make sense, and I don't think that the Baltimore Ravens would have a serious conversation around Riq Woolen, especially a player that could be a one-year rental. If I'm Riq Woolen and I get traded to Baltimore, I'm out of Baltimore the very next year. So if I'm the Baltimore Ravens, why would I even call and try and make a trade there? So let's dive into the two more plausible trade options. The Indianapolis Colts, clearly lacking at the cornerback position. If they have a weakness on that defense, it is in that cornerback spot. And Riq Woolen would come in and immediately make some improvements to that roster. What I've been noticing, too, with the Indianapolis Colts is I don't think they expected to be here, right? Like, everyone kind of expected the Colts to be lesser than. And now when you're looking at the AFC playoff chances, they have the highest playoff chance odds in the NFL. 98.3%. That's higher than the Bills. That's higher than Denver. That's higher than Kansas City. That's higher than the Patriots. You go down the list, it's higher than all of them. And apparently Tennessee's already been eliminated from playoff contention. Didn't know that was possible through 8 weeks of the NFL season. But to me, if I'm the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm looking at a spot where I got the 1 seed. If the playoffs started today, I got the 1 seed. And even if things go drastically wrong for the Colts, they're probably going to find a way into the postseason. They're going to be playing in January in very, very meaningful games. They did not expect to be here. I mean, I remember when the call came in, hey, it's going to be Daniel Jones, and everyone said, wow, what a dumpster fire. Ballard's probably going to get fired. Steichen's probably going to get fired. Everyone's going to get fired in Indianapolis. And then to have the season that they're having, why wouldn't they go in and find a good corner, which Riq Woolen is, and add them to their roster to make an upgrade and to have more strength in a position that is a weakness? Now, if I'm the Seattle Seahawks, this would be an interesting trade. You're trading Riq Woolen to the AFC, to a team in the Indianapolis Colts where, yes, you would have to play them later on in the year, but aside from that, the only real big game where you could potentially play them would be in a Super Bowl situation. It wouldn't be the worst idea if they could get a good trade piece over there. The last team that we're looking at is the Detroit Lions. Again, stop me if you've heard this before. The Lions are dealing with a lot of injuries on their defense. It's what derailed this team last year. I understand that Jaden Daniels just got hot with the Commanders and yet a bad first half in that NFC divisional round game. But right now, if I'm looking at this Detroit Lions team, if they had anybody that could stop a player defensively last year, they might have been a Super Bowl contending team. They might have won the Super Bowl. Now you're looking at back-to-back years where you have a brutal injury report. I mean, just look at the cornerbacks that are already on the injury report. Now, not all of them are necessarily out. Maddox is a guy who's kind of day-to-day. Terrion Arnold is supposed to and has been returning to practice this week. But looking at DJ Reed, looking at Khalil Dorsey, those are guys who have been out for extended periods of time. That's crazy. That's crazy. You already have this amount of injuries in your cornerback room, not to mention all the injuries that you have in your safety position as well. This defense in Detroit, I don't know why they can't stay healthy, but they continue to have these issues. You don't want a repeat of last year. You don't want your defense being the one thing that holds you back, because that's what a big deal that defense was for you. I understand that Jared Goff didn't have a great game, but if your defense could have stopped a cold, maybe that game stays close and you leave Detroit with a victory, and now you're hosting an NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Who knows what would have happened? Maybe the Eagles still beat you. But if you had a halfway decent defense that was healthy, I think Detroit fans would feel a lot better about themselves, and they don't want to repeat that again this year. I'm going to get into my opinion on whether I would trade Riq Woolen to any of these teams, but I want you to let me know first. Would you trade Riq Woolen in the NFC? I laid out an AFC option. I laid out an NFC option. Would you trade Riq Woolen in the NFC at all? Let me know down below in the comments, and I'm going to let you know what my opinion is on a Riq Woolen trade in the NFC and in the AFC. But before I do that, I want to let you know about the sponsor of today's videos, and that is our good friends over at Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on any 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your picks are right, you could cash in. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones are overhyped? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. I got a 2-pick power play for this Sunday action. Sam Darnold, more on his passing yards. George Pickens, more on his receiving yards. Love both of those offenses against those defenses. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. I teased what my opinion was going to be on a Riq Woolen trade, and before I give it to you, I'm going to make you earn it. And by earn it, we're going to go through the stats so far in this season that Riq Woolen has mustered. Now remember, he did have to miss a game with a concussion, but when I look at his stats through 6 games, 19 tackles from a corner, I don't hate that. That means guys aren't throwing the ball his way, and when they do, he's getting guys down on the ground. He's got 3 pass breakups. Great. Now, no TFLs. I don't need a corner to have TFLs. If my corner has a bunch of TFLs, he's either a special player like Devin Witherspoon, or I got questions about how often you're getting sent on a blitz. No interceptions. That's something that is a little bit of an issue to me. I would like to see Riq Woolen take more risks, take more chances, try and go and get the interception. But after watching Riq Woolen's last game against the Houston Texans, I think that we all got reminded just what type of cornerback he is. And that's a pretty darn good one in the NFL. I know that there have been a lot of trade rumors around Riq Woolen, and the Bleacher Report is just the latest one to be thrown out there. And they did predict a trade. They had Riq Woolen going to the Detroit Lions. In my eyes, no shot. I'm not trading Riq Woolen anywhere in the NFC because the NFC teams that they had listed, the Rams, they're in your division, and the Detroit Lions, you're going to have to play them in the playoffs if you want to get to where you think you can get to. Don't do it. Don't do it. It doesn't make sense. Stay away from the teams in the NFC. Do not trade him anywhere over there. It doesn't make sense to trade him to Baltimore. Baltimore doesn't have the type of defense that's going to accentuate his talents. And lastly, with the Colts, yeah, it makes some sense. You better get some darn good return. If you're going to trade Riq Woolen over to Indianapolis, that better be a sweet trade. You better find a offensive lineman in there so you could put someone in at guard and replace Anthony Bradford. Because right now, I just think you're one injury away from that secondary from being in a lot of trouble, from being in a position where you are begging some of your guys to play above their capabilities. You're begging Darian Kendrick to play at the level that he has previously. You're begging Josh Jobe to continue to play at almost a Pro Bowl level. You're begging Devin Witherspoon, a guy who, again, hasn't been seen at practice and has missed, 4 games now on the season? You're begging him to stay healthy the entire time. I don't know that you have the depth at that cornerback position to make a trade here. So don't make a trade. I understand that he might not stay in Seattle. I understand that he might move on. And that sucks. No one wants that. No one wants to lose a player in the offseason for nothing when you could have traded them for something. But I think right now with what you're playing for and how good this team is, I think you might need Riq Woolen on the back end. You got to just make sure that he plays a lot more like he did against the Houston Texans, and he doesn't make the mistakes that he did against the San Francisco 49ers. If there is a trade, you're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. The minute that the news breaks, I will have a video out ASAP. That Velus Jones signing broke. I had a video within 15 minutes out. Although some people are learning what breaking news means. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you later on the next video.